Billy, what the fuck is this shit?
Yeah, that was my reaction to the new Netflix Resident Evil show too. Now you could set yourself up for disappointment and waste 8 hours of your life watching the whole thing, puzzling over the biology of a saltwater alligator like I did, but I'm here to tell you, don't do that. If you're a longtime fan of the zombie blasting survival horror gameplay that Resident Evil is known for, there's a $5 indie game that captures the spirit completely, and you should spend your time playing this instead. Today's topic on Two-Headed Hero is Nightmare of Decay, an indie game developed and published in May 2022 by Checkmatey. It's basically a resi game, not like this, a little like this, and definitely not like this. Instead, this game is a first-person love letter to the original 1996 game and makes no attempt to hide its inspirations. Anyhow, welcome to Two-Headed Hero, where we chomp through the flesh of our Steam libraries in order to bring you the good guts. My name is Boss Sauce, and shh, Rolling Guns is asleep. So let's talk about a spooky game. Nightmare of Decay starts out with a little bit of a nightmare sequence, who would have thought? Rather than Resident Evil's sci-fi, it has a supernatural premise. Basically, people have been dying after experiencing a series of nightmares. You, the average gamer insomniac, also have been having nightmares lately. After a weird apparition in your apartment, you are launched into a dream sequence about an ancient mansion and have to find your way out to survive. The rest of the story is mostly told through short, cryptic cutscenes and conversations, with the gaps filled in by diary entries and other clues sprinkled throughout its dreary halls. Over the course of the game, you'll uncover secrets about the mansion, finding out what fate befalls its current residents, and stumbling across revelations about the first owner of the mansion and his descent into madness. Nightmare of Decay is a survival horror through and through. There's an emphasis on ammo conservation and running from big fights, just like in the old Resident Evil games. Design takes power away from the player, leading to some more intense feelings of helplessness, and the character movement plays into this directly. Strafing or backpedaling is way slower than running forward, so it's kind of an FPS emulation of old tank controls. The crosshair widens when you're rapid firing or when you're moving, and since every gun is point fire, there's no aiming down sights like in Call of Duty or anything. Usually it's better to stand still and take aim, pop off a few shots, then turn around and run real fast to kite your targets. There's no dodge roll or escape moves or breakaways, so enemies getting close usually equals taking damage, and getting cornered usually equals death. There's only a few weapons and there's no real way to hot swap between them, so you'll be seeing a lot of this inventory screen. Now, to the game's credit, Nightmare of Decay has removed the pain-in-the-ass inventory management of resi games by having unlimited slots, so if you hate backtracking to boxes for items and ammo, you're gonna love this. Now, there are also some simple resi-style inventory puzzles. These are all pretty easy, especially for those familiar with the moon logic mechanics from resi games, and each one gets a cute little cutscene. Like, just take a look at this. It's just so adorable. It's just eating a piece of pizza. Puzzles, boss encounters, exploring new areas, and meeting new characters all get a cool little in-engine first-person cutscene like this, and I'm just incredibly enamored with it. It makes the game so much more immersive and fits the aesthetic perfectly, and we need to talk about this aesthetic. It's definitely a thing. Checking out the store page screenshots, Nightmare of Decay doesn't look like a whole lot. I mean, look at these zombies, they're, I don't know.
What the fuck are you?
It could be any number of retro-styled, low-budget horror games that are currently flooding Steam. Everything looks pretty PS1 era, which may or may not be your thing. I do like this because, hey, we're mostly a gaming nostalgia channel here and this touches the right buttons, but it might not be for everyone. The environments follow suit, but they have an extremely good atmosphere. You have a really Resident Evil 1 Spencer Mansion-like kind of vibe here, with crummy old wallpaper in the hallways, wood floors, giant double doors, creepy paintings, dank stone sewers, and brickwork, all that good stuff. Love it. The enemy designs really pop that Resident Evil 1 style down to the behaviors and animations. So you got evil dogs, hungry zomboids, Nikkies, a regenerator, claw dudes, skellies, cultists with guns that kind of look like they're from Blood instead of Resident Evil, but, you know, they go down with a couple shots, so who cares? Most of the boss designs are also pretty cool, even if the fights themselves are a bit basic. I love this meat golem guy's design. He explodes really good. Less enamored with some of the other bosses, but there's one near the end that is just fantastic, and I'm not gonna spoil it for you. You need to experience it for yourself. The interface is kinda ugly. It works fine, but I can't help but feel this is kind of a missed opportunity. Maybe some kind of cool thematic interface with some 90s greebles scattered all over it would have been better, but instead we get pretty boring lists and a bunch of tabs. There's a good map. It's definitely straight from something like a Metroidvania or from Resi itself. It works perfectly functionally. It also has little icons for you to easily track your progress and go back to the particular puzzles that you need to once you find the necessary items, so I really liked that touch. There's some surprisingly impactful and brutal scenes. There's an alcoholic dude that gets his arm blown off. A dude graphically suicides at one point. There's also a couple good spookies like the lady ghost in the mirror trope and chainsaw guy with a severed head. Ooh, good stuff. The sound work in particular is very effective here. There's nice touches like the footstep noises and the groans of Zeds in the hallways, but there's great work on the environmental tracks, especially in the dungeons where the sounds of clacky spider legs and dripping water keep you looking over your shoulder thinking there's something around the next corner. The gunfire and monster noises really nailed the old Resi style, especially when you hear buckshot slap into meat or dynamite chunkifying a bunch of zombos. There's a few music tracks, they're nothing super special. Most of it is a spooky vibe, reverbed out piano loop or industrial clanks kind of things, mostly soundscapes, but it's sparingly used so you won't be hearing a lot of it, and it does a fine job of adding an air of mystery to the mood. There's also no voiceovers, which can be a blessing. All the character dialogue uses some sort of adorable Simlish babbling instead, which I think is really funny, especially when you're talking to the kitty cat. Just look at that cat, that's a good kitty right there. I wish you could pet the kitty though. Minus points. Honestly, Nightmare of Decay doesn't leave you with much to complain about, but there's a couple things I would have liked to see more of. While there's a good amount of puzzles, they're all really easy and boil down to find the thing and bring it back. It's kind of like having a glorified key. Not a lot of brain work is needed here, and any one of these hungry minions could probably figure it out on their own. This is the one area where I was actually expecting a little more difficulty, like maybe add some chess moves for this room where you have to shift a statue around. Or maybe you have to get chemical ratios right when you're formulating a jar of corrosive acid. Another thing I really would have liked to see would be more side quests. There's just one in the game, and interacting with this weird sentient wall sphincter is kinda awesome and really inventive. More of this kind of optional content would have been amazing, because the only other side activities are these tedious optional shooting gallery sections. Finally, well, this game is short. Even if you don't know what you're doing, it can easily be completed in under 2 hours. If you want to jump back into the Nightmare, there's an extra difficulty level and a couple bonus modes that unlock after finishing your first playthrough. And even if they're not super compelling, it's nice that there's some extra modes added anyway. Overall, it's hard for me to find fault with such a good experience at a basement level price tag. It's pretty polished, there's no frills, no bullshit, and it's an entry into the survival horror that earns every cent of its low asking price. I'd give it a rating of 3 cowboy clares out of 4 berries. I'd easily slap down some bucks for a sequel.
Can we be cool?
Plus, it's a much better use of your time than that awful Resident Evil show. Anyway, that's it for today. If you like what we're doing here, please consider touching all the buttons down there or tell us how much you love us in the comments. But don't tell us if you hate us, because we're fragile and we cry. If you really want to help us out on our never-ending backlog quest, consider sharing our content on Reddit or social media to help our channel grow. Once again, my name is Boss Sauce, and I'll see you on the next Two-Headed Hero. It's gonna be robot time.